And welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. When it comes to a pest control company, you want a group that's simply going to protect your home and do it at a fair rate. That's exactly what Southeast Termite and Pest Control has been doing for me for years now. Family owned right here in East Tennessee since 1971. Check them out this week. Go to southeasttermite.com. You'll see the trucks all over town. They've got it written right there. They've also got a phone number you can find. Southeasttermite.com, though, you can learn more about this group. I recommend them every week because it's easy. I use them. They're great. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. All right, let's take a look here. This is what everyone was talking about yesterday, Barnes versus Pearl. Barnes has 4 wins in his career against Bruce Pearl. He was 1-2 while at Texas, and he's 3-7 since coming to Tennessee. Pearl has the 9 wins against Rick Barnes, but he's won 6 straight. You know, once Barnes got here, he lost his first one to Pearl, then beat him 3 straight times, and now Pearl has run off 6 straight against Rick Barnes. Josh, I'll start with you, and we'll come back about the expectation question here in a second, because I know Mark wants to jump in here. But, Josh, let me start with you. Will Rick Barnes come to regret the fact he had UCLA right there 2 years ago? He said, no, I'm staying in Knoxville for more money. Will he come to regret not taking the UCLA gig?
Maybe so. My answer is going to be no, ultimately, because I'm going to
say,
I'm going to say that Rick Barnes he'll live with the decision. He decided to stay at Tennessee. I think he meant it at the time that he loved Tennessee and he had a good thing going. And look at the position he's put himself in. The results have not come this season, right?
Year, yeah.
And there's still plenty of time. But I think naturally any of us can always have an opportunity. We decline it, especially one like going to UCLA. He made it very clear how much that idea meant to him. But my answer is no. I think Rick Barnes will say, I got to stay at a place that I like. Maybe he'll win. I mean, that obviously is going to play a role here. But you got a big contract too. I think Rick Barnes, in the end, will say, I made the decision, I'll live with it.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I just wonder if, when he's at home at night, will he tell the wife, man, should have gone to Westwood, because they wouldn't have been on me.
I think there's a difference in thinking about it and regretting.
Yeah, okay. Now, Mark and Jerron, you guys have a different perspective on this. You know what kind of and this town is basically in love with Bruce Pearl. There's a certain sect that will always stay in love with Bruce Pearl. No one's ever going to live up to Bruce Pearl's image. You saw it. You were a player when it went from Rick Barnes to Gonzo Martin. You were on the staff when that happened. Do you think when Rick Barnes looks back on it, he will say, I could have eased stuff? I'm a big believer that coaches should always leave every 4 or 5 years. Stay ahead of the posse. After 4 or 5 years, people realize all your flaws and they stop looking at the successes unless they're huge. So I would think eventually he'll come to regret it. Do you think he'll regret it?
I would say I can't speak for Coach Barnes, from his perspective. He came here to make an impact, and I'm sure he's going to continue to try to do that. And so I don't think he'll regret anything, because when you choose to take over an organization, you come there with a perspective in mind, a goal to accomplish. And I'm pretty sure he came in with that in mind. Whether he gets that accomplished or not is not up for me to say. Yeah. But granted, as a fan of the team and of the organization, obviously you want them to do the best, and you want the coach to be able to put the team in positions to be successful. And so he's having a hard time right now. Granted, I played for Coach Pearl and Coach Martin. And so when we had hard times, granted, the fans, sometimes we fall in love with potential of the players that we got coming in or the roster that we have. And sometimes all things don't align for us to be the greatest we can be when we're together. You know what I mean? And so, because sometimes the personalities might not mesh, or you might be missing, a certain piece in there to make it all fit together. And so right now, I don't think he'll regret it. I think he'll take heed to what's happened his first 2 years, and hopefully he uses it for his future.
All right. And let me just be clear. I'm not saying I think he'll fail. And this kind of leads into where I think you want to go. I'm not saying I think he'll fail here. I'm saying if he's consistent and solid, I think people are still going to holler for his scalp. I just think that's what this place does. So that's what I think he'll come to regret, that, gosh, I'm winning 70% of my games. I don't think he's going to have this kind of season every single year. And I think people will still be riding him pretty hard. Now, maybe they would at UCLA too, but I know how this fan base is and how there's 8 million media people in our group here. So I think you'll regret it.
Well, if I'm Barnes and if I'm starting to get the sense of people thinking about that there could be firing me, I'm smiling, because I know the fact that what he's done and who he is, and with all the NCAA stuff going on around the country, that if they were to fire, and look, they're not going to, but
No.
if he got fired, he is going to have a job even quicker than Tennessee hired him from Texas because of all the accomplishments he's done and the way that he's accomplished them. And so he took a job. Yes, he got more money. So he got more money in a place that he loved being at, close to where his wife grew up, in a culture that fits him better than Los Angeles. And so if he ends up not being as successful as people want him to be, fine. But he's going to have another job, and so he don't have to worry about it. To Josh's point, like, it won't bother him. Now, does he want to be successful? Absolutely. That whole retirement Rick stuff, that can go somewhere, because in order to be able to recruit five-star guys the way that he's recruiting, you got to be working. Yeah. In order to create a culture that he's created, you got to be working. And so he's doing a ton of what he's doing in this community. You got to be working. He ain't just sitting in his office, drinking a cup of coffee and not doing anything. The man's working. It just turns out that this year, the greatest thing that Barnes has done in the past, he's been able to define roles. This year, for whatever reason, he has not been able to get these players to come together and define roles, and then he's not been able to develop a point guard. We've missed on E.J. Anosike, thought he'd be a big pickup. Euros has been a bust at this point. So there's been a lot of things that have not turned out, but that's what college basketball is. There's going to be ways. Give me a guy that's going to be NCAA clean and gonna consistently finish in the top of one of the best conferences in the country. Man, you take almost any school with the right sense of mind would take that, because he will have the opportunity to make Final Four runs like he did a couple years ago, every couple years. And any program would die to have that consistently.
Agreed. I think it's, just to be clear, I know what we're going to get or what I'm going to get. It's always the same thing. There are people that are now talking about firing Rick Barnes. Not big donors or anything, but fans. First time yesterday I saw it where I thought, well, that's a lot of them that are saying this now. And because we have to talk about it, people are going to come back and say, Pennington wants him fired. No, I think that's stupid. I think any Tennessee fan that's talking about firing Rick Barnes should just do this. If you're looking at basketball, shift your vision and look at football and say, yeah, that whole firing coaches left and right, that hasn't worked. So it's ridiculous, but there are people out there talking about it. So we bring up here from a different angle, will he regret sticking around? I think because of the expectations that it's national championship or bust here at Tennessee, where you've never ever made a Final Four, I think he'll come to regret it. I think eventually he'll say, man, I could have had a lot easier life in UCLA. But we shall see. All right, let's come on back on the next segment. Tennessee has an open week until Florida. How should Barnes be using it? How should he use this week? How should he deal with a team that's not giving maximum effort to him? Should he be practicing them, running them like dogs? Should he take them to a movie, not let them near a court? We'll get these guys' take. Come on back on the Sports Source.